Welcome to Betting Weekly Extra Time European Edition. You're with Dan Roebuck alongside me, Steve Wyss and James Eastham. Very good day to you both, Steve. Finally, same game parlay. Cash it.
You know what? Good day to you both. And it was a long time coming at the 8th attempt, incredibly. But I still wasn't happy overall because I don't know how the hot dog didn't cash. I had 35 minutes against 10 men. There was an incredible goal line clearance. So that's my next target now. I need a few more hot dogs cash in the new year. I've been like one goal out on about 5 or 6 occasions this year on these goal lines that I've been taking, or an Asian line. So I'm hoping I can sort that out. But really good news about the SGP. Do you know what? I actually wanted the SGP this week because there's a match I really wanted to fling half a unit at. So how the tables turn. Suddenly I want all part of it. When you've had a winner, you're feeling very good about yourself, aren't you, in that particular department?
Well, you can have an unofficial lean same game parlay. Are we going to cover the game that you're talking about?
It is one of the games I talk about, yeah.
Okay, all right. Another profitable week from both Steve and James. I don't know how many weeks on the spin it is now, but we're moving in the right direction. James, this is the last chance for bettors to cash in the calendar year for La Liga and Bundesliga. There's obviously a little bit of a winter break in Spain, a bigger one in Germany, but and obviously France is ongoing, but nothing in Italy. So we've still got a little bit of football over the course of the Christmas period from a European point of view.
Yeah, this is where it starts to change a little bit, doesn't it, for the festive period with leagues sort of having their little break. People watching will have their favourite leagues, the one they really like watching and also having a bet on. So some of those may disappear for 10 days or so. But like you say, Serie A is going straight through the Christmas period. Lots of matches being played in Italy, before Christmas, straight after Christmas, and then straight into January. So plenty still to look at. And as I say, today we've still got quite a lot of games going on, haven't we, across more than one league in Europe, certainly.
Yeah, we have indeed. Just a reminder of the boys' profit and loss so far on screen. Very much moving in the right direction as we have been for much of the season. Hopefully, you've been tailing the boys over the course of the last few weeks and months. Get your comments in on our YouTube channel. Of course, get your picks in. Let us know what you're betting over the course of this weekend, final weekend before Christmas, of course. And make sure that you follow us on Twitter at BecauseWeWin and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're inching towards 7,000 subscribers. The powers that be will be looking at all of the figures at the end of the season, all of the metrics, all of the numbers. So make sure you subscribe and get your brother, sister, mother, and dad to do it as well. Let's start our roundup of the games this weekend with probably the biggest game of the weekend across the continent because it's Barcelona against Atletico Madrid. This is a Saturday night game in Spain. It's 3 p.m. Saturday Eastern. Barcelona minus 115 to win this game. Atletico Madrid at plus 280, draw plus 270. Barca are plus 110 for the title. Their second favourites, Atleti, plus 450 for the title. James has got his same game parlay in this particular game. But just before we get to the SGP, I'm going to ask both of you just your thoughts on title race in Spain. James, you can go first here because it's your game that you're going to cover for the SGP. But Real Madrid are favourites. I backed Atleti, as I announced a couple of weeks ago. Barcelona, I think, have got a young squad. I mean, what do we think? Is it still Real Madrid's to lose? Have they still got enough? They won the Intercontinental Cup in midweek. They've got an awful lot of stardust, as we know. What do you make of the La Liga title race?
I think it's very difficult to say with any confidence which one of these three teams is going to win it. About 3 weeks ago, I said Barcelona at plus money were a good bet. They're still plus money. They're second favourites at plus 110. They've obviously wobbled recently. We'll come on to that talking about this particular game. Very difficult. I mean, I look at those three prices, Dan. Atleti, your pick, are probably the value pick based on how they're playing at the moment. But then we've already seen with the other two big teams that form can change in this league at the very top this season. So I'm personally not getting involved in the outright market. I think these prices have probably got quite a lot more movement to come this season.
Steve, what do you think of the situation in Spain at the moment ahead of this massive game on Saturday night?
The more I think about it, the more I think you might be onto a good thing here, Dan. I think Atletico Madrid, and it's been creeping up on me for the last few weeks now, I think they're going under the radar. Defense can win championships in any sport, and they have got by far the best defensive numbers in this league. XGA of 13 in 17 matches. It's miles better than anyone else. And do you know what? We've seen Barcelona and Real Madrid drop silly points against like mid-table teams or even bottom half teams. I don't think Atletico Madrid are doing that this season. They might not edge it out in the big games, but if they beat the rest of the league pretty well and get the 1-0s and 2-0s of this world, they could sneak in. It feels like it could be an Atletico title, you know. And one thing I will say, they don't have the best 11 compared to Barcelona and Real Madrid, but do they have the best overall squad? They've got more depth than both of them teams for me, or more quality depth. Barcelona, we've seen real struggle if a few players are missing. And Real Madrid often get in that category as well when 2 or 3 Galacticos go down. So they've got every chance. And something just tells me that it could be Atletico's season.
Hope so. Let's get into James's same game parlay, shall we? Barca, a little bit uneven in terms of form recently, just 3 wins the last 8. Atleti top of the 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 match form tables. Are we going for an Atleti win away from home? It is rare. They haven't won away at Barcelona for some 19 years. James, what's the same game parlay? How are we tackling the game?
Yeah, so I'm not going for an Atleti away win here, although I did nearly go for a straight pick on Atleti or tie. Atletico Madrid or tie in this game is minus 115. I think that's a great price when you consider Barcelona haven't been winning that many games recently. I think they've only won 3 of their last 8. So I think my general view on the game is that Atletico Madrid are underrated. But for the same game parlay, I've kept it quite simple. I looked at a lot of different markets on this match. I thought about having maybe 3 factors in the parlay. In the end, I've gone for 2. And the first one is to go under goals. Now, obviously with a parlay, you've got the chance to go for different sort of bets than you would if you were just doing a single. So I'm going for under 4.5 goals in the game as the first leg of my parlay. It's paid out in nearly all of Atletico Madrid's league games this season. I think it's 15 out of 17 have gone under 4.5 goals. If you look at Barcelona's stats, their home games have been higher scoring, but not so much recently. I think their last 4 matches in all competitions have had 4 goals or fewer. So the goals have been drying up. And I think, will this game have 5 goals or more this weekend? I don't think so. I don't think so if you look at both how Atletico Madrid have been playing recently and defending recently, and also Barcelona's goal stats. So that's the first leg, under 4.5 goals. And my second is on Antoine Griezmann to have over 0.5 shots on target. He's available at minus 157 in this market if anybody wants it as a single. If you put Griezmann to have over 0.5 shots on target into this as a parlay, then the 2 of them will pay out at plus 107. And on Griezmann, I think he's managed 7 shots on target in his last 4 Liga matches. It's always a big game for him, obviously, isn't it, when he plays against Barcelona, where things didn't really work out for him. So that's the same game parlay, massive game, keeping it quite simple, under 4.5 goals, and Griezmann to have over 0.5 shots on target, plus 107.
Great stuff. Steve, if you had a free $10 play on this one, where would you go, do you think, Barca Atleti?
I'm going to go unders. Because there's talk in the build-up that Atletico Madrid, Simeone is going to reel out a new Pacific formation to counteract Barcelona in this game, and it's worth remembering that they've not got a good record against Barcelona away, but the season they did win the title in 2013-14, they went to Barcelona and got the draw they needed on the last day of the season to win the title, and I think, if you are going to win titles, you've got to come to places like this and get the result that you need. Head-to-head could be important, again. So I think they'll be happy with the draw, but I think they're going to set up defensively. I've mentioned the defensive metrics are very, very good. And Barcelona just looked like a tired team to me at this point in time. They just lacked everything. I couldn't believe it, actually, against Leganes. Leganes deserved the win, really. But yeah, I think the goal line is where I'd be looking at. Under 2.5 goals is plus 138. Under 3.5 goals is at minus 195. That's where my free $10 play would go. I'd just cash the under 3.5 at quite short odds.
We've got a lean from Steve in Spain on Saturday, just to keep it with La Liga, Getafe, Mallorca. What's your lean on the Saturday Spain slate, Steve?
This is silly. The goal line is ridiculously low. You
but
can
it is
actually
Mallorca.
bet. Yeah. Well,
And it is
glad you said
Getafe.
that. I am glad you've said that because I think it's reputation based. But over 1.5 goals, 1.5 can be backed at -136, which, I mean, that is a really low goal line. That is ridiculously low.
I'm just looking at the stats. It's Getafe that's bringing it down, isn't it? I mean, Mallorca is sort of traditional unders, but Getafe's goals for, goals against is minimal, isn't it, this season?
Getafe have had one match go over 2.5 goals this season. One match. But that just can't continue. Just by law of averages. In terms of over 1.5 goal games, I think both teams have had at least half of their games going over 1.5. So, I mean, Mallorca recently, their fixtures have opened up quite nicely, to be honest with you. Had a 2-1 win against Girona. They lost at Celta Vigo 2-0, 5-1 versus Barca. It's been a while, actually, since one of their games did go under 1.5. Mallorca are not as defensive as people think. They've evolved as the season goes on. The problem with Getafe is they just can't score goals. I mean, their expected goals under achievement is really poor. And do you know what I think might happen here? It's one of them where all the media, all the fans are thinking 0-0. But is either team going to be afraid of the opposition attack? I don't think they will be. In which case, you might end up with a more open game than expected. I mean, I'm priced in here, really. Over 1.5 goals at -136 is stupid. I can't not go for this one. I honestly thought about having 2 units on this play, just out of sheer principle. I'm an overs man, more of an unders man. I'm not having this. Look, goals can be scored by accident. Look at the fixed draws down the years, arranged draws, let's say. A goal is sometimes scored by mistake. This can happen.
Yeah.
Goals can. It doesn't. For a match to go over 2.5 or 3.5, I think there's got to be a lot of chances usually. But 2 goals in a game can be scored just by accident. So yeah, this is a lean. It's quite a strong lean actually on value.
Okay, -136 over 1.5, so 2 goals full cash. Let's remind you of that. It's not an Asian play. Let's get to Italy for James's 1 unit pick of the weekend. Genoa against Napoli. This is Saturday midday. Napoli are -155 away from home. Genoa +450. Napoli can go top of Serie A with a win if just for 24 hours. We've been playing the money line. It's been profitable for us with Napoli, but it's starting to cost a little bit in terms of price here, -155. So you've got to bump it up somehow, James, for a more palatable price here. What's the market we're going for?
Yeah, so it's a similar pick in that it's on Napoli to win the game, but as you say, they have got shorter just to win matches. So I'm back in Napoli on the Asian handicap with a -0.75 goal start, which is available at -121. I should say I was loving the Napoli chat in the comments last week, Dan. There's plenty of different opinions. After I did the pick on Napoli to beat Udinese last weekend, which did cash for us, but different views on just how strong Napoli are and whether they can push on for the title. They're still third favourites in the title race. They're +400 at the moment. I still think on this match-by-match basis, away from home particularly, Napoli have been good value, and that's what's led me to pick them again for my 1 unit play this week. I think it's pretty much the same as last week away at Udinese. The difference being they're playing Genoa this weekend, and actually Genoa's home record this weekend is a little bit worse than Udinese's was last weekend, and Napoli went there and won. So I looked at this game and I thought, well, I don't really see a reason why Napoli can't turn in a similar sort of performance. Genoa have been difficult to beat at home. We should say that they've drawn 6, but they've yet to win at home. So I don't think Napoli will be particularly intimidated by this trip. And the same thing applies to Napoli this week as has applied so many times this season. They haven't had a midweek game to contend with. Obviously, there's been no Champions League this week, but they haven't even had the Coppa Italia, which some of the other teams in Serie A have had because they got knocked out by Lazio earlier this month. So same again for Napoli. They're just going weekend to weekend. And I think these away games against mid-table, beatable, let's say, Serie A sides, they're not really slipping up. So same for me, as you say, they are getting a little bit shorter on the money line. But if you back them on the Asian handicap with this pick, -0.75 goal start, you will make a profit as long as Napoli win the match.
16 1-0s in Serie A. Napoli have accounted for 25% of them. But yeah, you'll still get a profit if they win by a goal to nil, but let's hope it's a little bit more for a full cash. Just on the title race, James, it's interesting because we've talked about Napoli. I've backed Atalanta as part of my battery bet, AAA, Atalanta, Atleti and Arsenal, which will be that'll be a good holiday in the summer if it comes up. But I just wonder with the Serie A market that because Napoli aren't playing in Europe and Atalanta are and playing well, I know they got beat off Real Madrid on match day 6, but it's almost as if Atalanta are in, the public's eye, the trader's eye, the odds maker's eye, and Napoli aren't. And so I don't know. I think they're too short now at the minute. I've backed them at a bigger price, but I don't know where you think that because Napoli bizarrely keep on going under the radar might still be the value in the Scudetto race.
Yeah, I completely think they are. There's so little to pick between the teams at the top of it. If you leave Inter out of it, right? Inter are the minus money favourites, and we understand why they are the most likely to win it. But if you leave them out of it, there's so little to pick between the other 2 or 3 teams in the chasing pack, both in terms of how good they are and also the points on the board, that I personally wouldn't be backing Atalanta at shorter odds than Napoli as they are now. I think Atalanta are plus 225 to win the title at the moment. Napoli 400. It's almost twice as big on Napoli, and you're absolutely right. There's a lot more for Atalanta to contend with for the rest of this season than there is for Napoli, who can just keep their eye on the prize. It's all about Serie A, and their price has fluctuated as Napoli's. They were plus 300, then they came in a bit to plus 225. Plus 400 for me is a good price, but as I say, I wouldn't be separating them. If I was setting the market, I'd have Atalanta and Napoli exactly the same, because a couple of points advantage at this stage when you're still in Europe, as Atalanta are for me, it's not enough for them to be a shorter price.
Let us know in the comments who you fancy for the Serie A title. Go on, Steve.
They're the best team. Yeah. Inter are the best team in Italy for me, still by quite a distance. Yeah, by a distance. Mm-hmm. They'll win the title, I think. They didn't say the other 2 could win it.
Well, I hope you're
Napoli
wrong.
Have got a great. Well, I kind of hope I'm wrong as well. I don't want to see them keep winning it every year. It'd be nice to see one of the other 2 win it. But let's be real. I mean,
they've got 4 points fewer this season than at the same stage last season. Inter.
Yeah, I mean, I think if say Will White, I'll ask him next time what his ratings are in this league. I think Inter is still.
What does he know?
Just one thing on Genoa.
The other thing as well.
About
the other thing
Genoa,
I was going to say
right?
on Inter, so very quickly on Inter, Steve, you're absolutely right. They're the best team. Then it's about the price, isn't it? Minus money. Should they be minus money when you got so many teams going for the title? Again, people in the comments will have different views on this, but they are the best team. They probably will win it, but minus 125 at the moment. It's whether they're backable, whether people want to back them at that price. I don't know. I wouldn't myself, but I think it is fair to say they are still the best team in Serie A, aren't they? They kind of are proving
and they're
it
priced
just
that
about
way
at the moment.
They are priced
Steve,
that
you
way.
were saying.
Oh yeah, Genoa. I mean, they are really struggling for goals, so much so that there was I say a rumour, quite a strong link doing the rounds this week that they are very keen on signing Patrick Bamford. That just shows how desperate they are, I think, right now. In front of goal, and I mean James mentioned
a Leeds fan with an agenda against Patrick Bamford. Who knew?
he is just a shadow of what he once was. Unfortunately, he had a good run, but James mentioned the win to nil stat, and this looks ripe for Napoli. I thought they'd win to nil last week, and they didn't, but it was a penalty, wasn't it? Really, that got them the goal conceded, rebound anyway. So I think 0-1, 0-2 looks very much on the cards in this particular contest. And the title battle is going to be interesting. We've got a lot of Serie A talk over the next 2 shows, so we can really get into the meat of it.
Well, let's turn our attention to the final Saturday in the Bundesliga before Christmas. And this is the Steve Wyss show for the next however many minutes here, because Steve's got 2 you play, 1 you play, and hot dog coming up in quick succession. Going to start with your best bet of the weekend, Steve. This is Stuttgart against St Pauli. Stuttgart minus 220. They've won their last 4. They are maybe playing, or the numbers suggest they're playing like they were last season. They've hit some good form here, and you are backing them again, but not just on the money line.
Yeah, Asian handicap -1 against St Pauli at -127. You've pretty much said what needs to be said there, Dan. They're starting to play a lot better recently. Racked up some good wins, both domestically and in the Champions League. I think it was a great come-from-behind victory against Union Berlin in the last home game. 2-0 down, won 3-2. Put up a really professional show against Heidenheim. last week, got the job done there. And, they've got Dennis Undav's out, but they've still got some great attacking options, like Demirovic. And I love this target man they've got, this young target man, Voltemade, I think is his pronunciation, former Bremen man. He looks a really good old-fashioned sort of striker. You'd love him, Dan. James probably as well. A throwback, really. He's just, I really do rate him. So, and look, the bottom 4 or 5 in Germany are really bad at the minute, and it's been no secret I've been kind of opposing them when I can this season. And St Pauli, I think, they've got a better defence than the rest of the teams down there, but their offence is really poor. 11 goals in 14 games. That is so low for the German Bundesliga. And I think that's my problem with them here, in that Stuttgart should dominate, and I don't think St Pauli have enough of an outlet going in the other direction. So they're going to try and hold on to a 0-0. But Stuttgart are just too strong offensively to be held that way. So eventually I think the deadlock will be broken. It might take an hour to break them down, but eventually Stuttgart will do it. And all we need them to do is win by 1 goal, and we're not going to lose any money at all. But I think there's actually, Stuttgart don't tend to keep many clean sheets, but this could be one where they do. You're looking like a 2-0 win could be on the cards. But at very least, I think they get the 3 points against what I would call a limited St Pauli side.
Yeah, Voltemade, incidentally, is +188 to score at any time. He's got 5 in his last 3, and looks like he's starting. I must admit, I've never heard of him before, but yeah, old-fashioned strike, obviously working well with Stuttgart. 2U play for Steve, -127, Stuttgart -1 on the Asian line. We go Tino bet for your next play here. Hoffenheim against Gladbach, almost a pick-em contest, but Hoffenheim are the favourites at +125. This, to me, Steve, is a counterintuitive play from yourself, because Gladbach are the focus of the bet. They haven't won any of the last 6 away. Square the circle for us.
Well, this is why it's Tino bet, because there's not a bad chance of a draw in this game. But at +115, I mean, Borussia Mönchengladbach served me well last weekend, got a good win on the board. They've been way more consistent this season. Just 2 defeats in their last 11 games. And those were away, and that's in all competitions. That was away against Frankfurt in the Cup and away against Freiburg. Yes, their away form does lack wins. But I mean, this was nearly a hot dog for me. It was +188 though on the money line, so it wouldn't have counted. But Hoffenheim, they concern me this season. I think they're running on fumes a little bit. They would have been pleased to have a whole week off. Finally, they've really struggled to juggle European and domestic commitments. Got a late equaliser against Dortmund last week, which that might give them a boost. But I mean, Dortmund, I thought, were flat on their feet as well after their own midweek endeavours. So I don't know if we take an awful lot out of that. Hoffenheim have really lacked wins, just 2 in the league since the end of August. One of those was a crazy result against Leipzig, 4-3, where all sorts of things went on, and the other win was against Bochum. Everyone's beating Bochum, mostly everyone. Look, I do think Hoffenheim will play a bit better this week, but Gladbach are in a nice run of form. I really like there's a lot more control about Borussia Mönchengladbach this season. They didn't have that. They were more frantic the last couple of years, but there were more controlled elements to them this time. So I'm happy to put my 1 unit stake on them on a Tino bet here. If it's a draw, it's okay. We'll get the refund. But the most likely team to win this match for me is Borussia Mönchengladbach. Hoffenheim. Yet again, and it feels like for the last 5 years, whenever I've looked at their injury list, it's vast. Like what goes on their medical department, there's always at least 6 players out. And the same again here. So it's the visitors on this Tino bet at +115 for me.
And Kiel against Augsburg is the final 9:30 Saturday game you're going to cover for us. So all of these games that Steve is selecting picks in 9:30 Saturday Eastern. This is Augsburg away from home. That is the feature of the play. And this is your hot dog, Steve.
Well, I nearly had the 2 unit play on this. I nearly had the 1 unit play on this. I've ended it with a hot dog on it. But for me, Augsburg get the job done. Going against Holstein Kiel has been very profitable for me the last 2 weeks. Leipzig and Gladbach beat them comfortably, and I've got to keep going against this team because I think they're awful. the same spiel again. Bundesliga 2 side in all but name. They've lost 9 games by a 2-goal or more margin this season, which is why I like -1 Asian handicap on Augsburg at +265. It's sort of a similar reasoning to James's hot dog pick last week, which was a brilliant cash for Strasbourg.
Excellent.
Where a lot of people maybe wouldn't have looked at that and think that's going to be a win, an easy win. And I think this is kind of the same because Augsburg have had some tough fixtures recently. Leverkusen last week, Frankfurt, Bayern as well, Wolfsburg away recently, Dortmund was on the cards. This is way easier. This is a much easier game for them against Holstein Kiel, and I think Kiel are now at the stage where the promotion sort of party's gone. It's gone now. I don't think they're going to be enjoying this experience anymore. 5 points on the board. They're getting beat most weeks. And I think they're at a stage where, I don't think they're even going to settle for a draw. If it's a draw with 10 minutes to go, they're not just going to take a point. They're going to go for the win. And that would suit Augsburg, give them chances. But they're not a bad team, Augsburg. They're better than... They started the season a bit slow, but they've got a lot better. And I just think these bottom 3 or 4 are well worth betting against at the minute, Dan. So I think if Augsburg do win the game, they win it by a decent margin. I could see this being like a 3-1, even 3-0 sort of victory because Kiel are a bad team in so many ways. They find ways to lose, they underachieve, they are unlucky, but they're also bad. So it's I think +265. It's a bad, awful combo, isn't it? It's just a horrible combo. +265, Asian handicap -1. So if they win by 1 goal exactly, we get the push. But I think that's a big price on the visitors. I looked at the Tino bet for the 2-unit play, and I looked at the 1-unit play straight on the money line as well, for those who want to do it that way. But yeah, hot dog reasons, +265 on the -1 Asian.
Move on to the Sunday games. Real Madrid versus Sevilla. We're going to talk about first of all in Spain, 10:15 a.m. on Sunday. Real Madrid are short here at -335. Sevilla 7-1 shots draw +475 here. Real Madrid beat Pachuca in midweek. All the stars play, but it was only Qatar. It's not the journey that they might have had in Japan of yesteryear when this game was played there, or indeed going to South America and pitches and atmospheres over there. So Real Madrid back to form. James, your hot dog is featuring here. It's not money line, it's not Asian line, but we go to a shot on target market for you. What you got for us?
Yeah, so I'm backing Jude Bellingham this weekend as my hot dog pick in the over shot on target market. Now, I normally do over 0.5 shots on target in League One. Jude Bellingham is short odds to have over 0.5 shots on target, as you'd expect, playing for Real Madrid at home. So I'm backing him over 1.5 shots on target, which is available at +280. You're right, Dan. It's not a particularly... testing trip, is it, to Qatar and back? I think people will look at that midweek game and think, well, what will it have taken out of them? I mean, you see players jetting off to the Middle East, don't you, on their days off these days? So I don't think it's a massive deal. And I do think they'll need to be focused on the league straight away this weekend because it's such a tight title race. So, yeah, I'm expecting a big performance from Real Madrid. And Jude Bellingham has been playing better going forward recently. And that is a factor in this pick. He's managed over 1 shot on target in each of his last 5 games in La Liga. So I'm looking for him to press on and manage 2 for us here so that we cash. Now, the factor with Jude Bellingham and shots on target and goals and assists and all the rest of it is Kylian Mbappe and the fact that they do like to attack those same sort of spaces. I was slightly surprised that Mbappe started against Pachuca because he'd had that injury that he picked up last week in the Champions League. But it didn't seem to matter. He looked fit and he scored in that win in midweek. I just wonder if that might lead to the manager Ancelotti leaving him out this weekend because obviously you don't want to overplay him. Home to Sevilla, maybe you can afford to have him on the bench and bring him on if you need. I don't know. So if Mbappe starting ahead of Bellingham is a factor for you and sort of curtails those runs that Bellingham makes to get into scoring positions, you might want to wait for team news for this. I'm going to back it anyway. I think Bellingham to manage over 1.5 shots on target at home at +280. Is a pretty good price given what we've seen from him recently. And, you know, him and Mbappe, they're going to be in the same team most of the time, aren't they? Because generally they're going to get picked. So I think sooner or later they'll need to work that out. But just based on what I've seen from Bellingham recently going forward, I think over 1.5 shots on target is possible here. And I think +280 could look like a very big price.
I think he's in form. I think he's a streaky player when it comes to his attacking output. I think it's a fair play and a very good price. Emotional day for Sevilla last week with Jesus Navas retiring mid-season. They won that game against Celta Vigo. We probably missed a trick there, didn't we? Because they were a big price, around about 6-4 plus 150. And I just wonder if there might be a little bit of mental letdown for Sevilla after that game. A lot of emotion in it. And they could be right for the picking. You've just got to lean on the Asian line for us, James, in this one as well.
Yeah, my lean is on Real Madrid on the Asian line with a minus 1.5 goal start, which is available at minus 107. As you say, Dan, they're really short odds, obviously, to win the game at home. So I'm backing them here to win it by 2 goals or more. I mean, I got tripped up last weekend backing Real Madrid on the Asian handicap. That was away from home with a minus 1 goal start, and they ended up drawing the game. But I've said before on the show, just because something you've spotted as a trend doesn't work out once, it's not always a reason to back away from it. And Real Madrid have been winning the lion's share of their matches against beatable sides in La Liga this season by a couple of goals. So I think at home this weekend, close to even money here to win by a couple of goals. If you look at the stats, they've been doing it repeatedly against their beatable sides. So I was willing to go back in on Real Madrid, not get spooked by the fact that they drew that game against Rayo Vallecano last weekend, and back them to win it. And as I say, just to go back to the point about the midweek game, I don't think it's a particularly big factor. Again, people might have different views on that, but I think because the title race is so tight, they cannot afford to ease off at all, and they have to look at these home games and see them as games they have to win. So when Real Madrid have won them this season, it's generally been by a couple of goals. So it's only a lean, but it's Real Madrid minus 1.5 on the Asian handicap at minus 107.
That's Madrid against Sevilla, which has got a hot dog and James lean on that Asian line as well. We've got a couple of Sunday leans from Steve, one in Spain, one in Germany, both early on Sunday, 8 a.m. and 9:30. Spain, first of all. Steve, this is an interesting one. Was this close to a hot dog for you?
Yeah, it was. I don't really like this card in La Liga at the weekend. Hence, there's no official pick by me in the actual in La Liga. The likes of Las Palmas even tempted me. That's how much I was scraping the barrel. But I think Alaves on the money line plus 255. I did consider it for the hot dog because I think Valencia
gone, haven't they?
Well, this is the problem, Dan. And at some point, you just wonder when it's going to reach rock bottom. And it's probably going to come in a home game where the fans just, what do they wave? The white flags and all that sort of thing. And it's a poisonous atmosphere when the going's bad at the Mestalla, isn't it?
Well, they don't like the owner at all, do they? I mean, there's problems there. The new stadium's never got built. It's a bit of a shambles.
Yeah, they're bottom of the table. They've just picked up a draw against Espanyol in midweek. I mean, that might be a good thing. It might be a bad thing that they've played midweek. I don't know. But I watched them last weekend against Valladolid. I think it was Friday night. And I think they conceded like 2 shots and lost 1-0. And they just never looked like scoring despite sort of trying to create. They just looked devoid of confidence, devoid of goals. And against an Alaves side, I mean, we and you had that chat, didn't we, on the down in London about they sacked their manager. We didn't think it was going to work out, but they've got a reaction out of it. They've drawn against Osasuna. They drew against Athletic Bilbao at home, and I think that's a really good result. And I looked at the metrics of that game. It seemed pretty deserved, and I don't know what it is. Sometimes just does it wake up players when there's a change of manager? Someone goes. It just seems to I don't know, make players more focused a bit more. And I think Alaves, this is a good chance for them. They won here last year 1-0. They actually beat Valencia 1-0 both meetings last season. And I think this crowd could turn very, very quickly. So plus 255 on Alaves on the money line, I think it's a good bet actually here. If Valencia are due a match where it just everything goes wrong for them, and they'll be baying for blood with this Mestalla crowd.
And briefly, on Bochum Heidenheim. Bochum, the only side in the top 5 leagues without a win this season. Moneyline Bochum, Steve?
I think Bochum win.
Here we go. That's not the lean though.
This is the biggest game of the weekend. Forget Atletico Madrid, Barcelona. This is the big game. I mean, just look at the form of these teams. It's horrendous. So where have we got to go? We've got to go with the goals, haven't we? Over 2.5 goals at minus 137. This was the match that I wanted half a unit on the SGP.
Okay, come on then.
I would have flung together over 3.5 goals and Bochum tie or double chance tie or Bochum.
Yeah.
That's plus 260. I think Bochum will win the game. I think Heidenheim, again, playing midweek, they've really, really struggled of late. And it's a must-win for both, especially Bochum. It's going to be awful. This was I nearly went hot dog over 4.5 goals, straight up over 4.5 at plus 460. Because I think this could end something stupid like 3-3.
That'll do.
I'm good at the stats don't point towards it with Bochum with the goals, but I think this could end something ridiculous. The weather forecast is a little bit of snow as well, so who knows? But watch out. Usually in this sort of match where both teams are desperate for points, we could get a glutton of goals. So the lean is over 2.5, but I'd be looking at laddering goal lines and get Bochum on your side as well here, because if they can't win this game, they can't beat anyone.
That's the spirit. We have got one more official play before a little bit of Monday chat. But Sunday, big game in terms of the timing, 2:45 Eastern. So it's Sunday night in Italy. James has got his 2U play. Best bet of the weekend from James coming your way. Monza against Juventus. Bit of a surprise for me as well, this one. Monza plus 500 isn't the bet. Juve minus 152. The draw plus 255. It's a surprise because James likes Juventus. But just digging in some of the stats, no team in the top 5 leagues in Europe has drawn more games than Juve. I knew they'd drawn a few under Motta, but not as many as they had. 10 of 16. But they are unbeaten. But it does make me a little bit nervous, James. You're playing the Asian line here. Talk us through your best bet of the weekend.
Yeah, so it's on Juventus, and it's quite similar to my 1-unit pick on Napoli in that because they're quite short on the money line, minus 152 around that point. I'm backing them on the Asian handicap instead. So it's Juventus minus 0.75 on the Asian handicap, which is better odds, obviously, minus 117 on that. So if they win by a single goal, then half your stakes are going to win. And if they win by 2 or more goals, then you get a win with your full stakes. So I do understand your nervousness about Juventus. They've not played well. I mean, Juventus are now, can we say, out of the title race in Serie A? The bookies seem to think so. They're plus 5,000. 50 to 1 to win the title. Who'd have thought that Juventus would be in that position before Christmas? It's remarkable, really. And even more remarkable because, as you say, they're unbeaten. But it's down to how many games they've drawn. 10 out of 16 draws is just not good enough. And that's what will make people nervous. You've got a team here who are drawing most of their games, so why would they win? My feeling is that if they can't win this game, then they probably would have already lost matches this season. Honestly, I think that they have actually played well enough to win this match based on what I've seen of them. So obviously not good enough that they've only won 6 out of 16, but this is a very winnable match, and I think they will get the win here. A couple of factors which I think feed into that. They have had a good win in midweek of Juventus. They've beaten Cagliari 4-0 in the Coppa Italia. Does that matter? Well, I don't think it does any harm, actually. I think it will put them in the right frame of mind for this game. I think a second factor on the match is that Juventus have been defensively very good this season away from home. And I think there's a very good chance they keep a clean sheet here. If they do that, I honestly think over the 90 minutes they will find a way to win because they haven't not been scoring goals. They're obviously not super prolific, but they should find a way to win it if they can keep a clean sheet for me. And on Monza, well, listen, they're second bottom from the Serie A table at the moment. They've got the worst home record in Serie A at the moment. They've lost 5 out of 8. There's absolutely nothing in the stats or the form figures on Monza to suggest that they can even get a draw here for me, let alone win the game. So I think it's the right time to back Juventus. I was quite hot on them early on in the season, and then I've obviously moved away from them as their form has faltered and we're not quite sure what we're going to get. But I think this match comes at the right time. As I say, that midweek win in the Coppa Italia won't do any harm, and they're playing a side who are about the most beatable side in Serie A at the moment. So I'm backing Juventus here. It is my 2-unit pick. It's on the Asian handicap, minus 0.75, and it's available at minus 117.
Steve, your lean was exactly the same.
Yeah, if I was to have a fourth pick, official pick, this would be it. Juventus minus 0.75 Asian handicap. So, I've got exactly the same answer. Do you need my workings out?
Yeah, come on, Carol.
This is what I believe. I think Monza are bad. That's what I've got written down. There's nothing else to say. I think Juventus will win 2-0 as well. And the best thing about the minus 0.75 Asian handicap, if it ends 1-0, which is very possible with Juventus, we win half the cash. It's not a push, you actually win half. So, he's got 2 units on this, James. So he's very happy with a 0-1 score.
Absolutely.
22 games Juventus have played in Serie A and the Champions League this season. 5 0-0 draws. If you back 0-0 in every single one of their games, your return on investment is plus 95.2%. A lot of draws, fair few 0-0s. We're hoping Juve shade it. I expect they will do because it's James's 2U play. And Steve gives it a lean as well. Monday night, just to wrap up the weekend, let's just have a brief chat on a couple of Serie A games here. Don't know if you boys have got any thoughts on these. Obviously, Inter in action, Fiorentina are playing as well. Fiorentina play tonight in the Conference League. They need a point, I think, pretty much to guarantee a top 8 finish in the Conference League phase standings. They're away at Guimarães. They take on Udinese 12:30. It's Inter against Como at 2:45. These are Monday bets. Stephen James, any thoughts, any sort of, I know you've not got sort of official leans, if that's the phrase, but any just sort of betting thoughts around these two Monday night games? Steve, you can go first.
Well, the game that interests me the most is the Fiorentina match, actually, against Udinese. Obviously, I'll be keeping my eye on Fiorentina in the Conference League, see what happens with their match in Portugal. But I think the -1 on Fiorentina is looking quite appealing here. I will admit there's maybe quite a decent chance of a push, a 1-goal win, but James mentioned Udinese last week on the show, and I think he sums them up perfectly. There's nothing remarkable about them, is there? They're like a bang average side. I mean, they're 9th in the table at the minute. I think they'll finish between probably 11th and 14th eventually. They're just the definition of mediocre. And mediocre sides sometimes have a good day, but Fiorentina are a legit sort of top 6-7 outfit in Italy right now. And with home advantage, I'd be really surprised if they don't beat Udinese. They just don't. I don't think they offer enough against the better teams. I think is the best way I can say it with Udinese. I think put them against some of the poorer clubs, they're all right, but they just lack, especially offensively, against the good teams. And I think Fiorentina will get the win. So the -1 Asian handicap is at -105. I think I'll end up betting that the closer towards kickoff this goes. Let's see what happens Thursday. But I just don't think Udinese are anything special at all.
James, any thoughts on the Monday games?
Yeah, well, I'm a bit nervous about talking about Inter in a Monday night game because last weekend I thought Lazio might give them a tough game, and we all know what happened.
I bet Lazio. Don't worry about that.
Inter won 6-0 for people that didn't notice. I thought Lazio might get a point there. So, Inter on Monday night clearly got something special going on, but that is actually the game I'm more interested in here. I didn't have a strong view on Fiorentina. I did sort of look at what Steve's talking about, but not that sure about Fiorentina at the moment, exactly what I'm going to get with them. Inter Como, I quite liked both teams to score here. It's maybe worth a look at -110. If you look at Como, not that scared away from home, fairly brave, I think, when I've watched them played. And Inter are not afraid to give up chances either because they're backing their attackers to do really well this season. We saw that last weekend with that 6-0 win. So that'll be almost a lean for me. I think Inter should obviously get the job done, but they're really short to win the game, and I didn't like them on the Asian handicap, even though they've proved they can beat handicap lines. I think they're -1.75, -2, something like that, close to evens. So for me, it was about Como, whether they can maybe do a bit better than people think just by getting on the score sheet, and -110 on both teams to score might be worth a look.
Yeah, mini lean. I'm going to back both home wins. Fiorentina, Inter, it's around about -110, 115 at the moment, if you like Fiorentina and Inter both to win.
Dan's
Monday
double.
Ahead of Christmas. Dan's double. Monday, get your late Christmas present. Done all your Christmas shopping, boys?
Yes, nearly, yes.
Steve?
I've got things to get still. I am more last minute sometimes. I've had times in the past where I've been out on Christmas Eve.
We've all been
It won't
there.
be Christmas Eve this year, but I do like the last sort of Saturday before Christmas. You'll get me in some of the local towns around here.
Fantastic stuff. Well, look, we wish all of our viewers and listeners a very Merry Christmas. We'll be back, of course, just after Christmas and ahead of the New Year for a full schedule of Serie A action. So we'll have a bit of a deep dive into all of the games for you. Steve, James, thanks for your company for this week. We'll keep everyone updated over the weekend via our X feeds. That does wrap it up for Betting Weekly Extra Time European edition. And don't forget about the live. What is the live show schedule over Christmas, Steve? You're usually on it. I mean, are we still got it every midweek day? Are we doing a Christmas Day show? Are you on Christmas Day?
There isn't. There is. I'll tell you what. There is a Christmas Eve show. Me and RJ are going to be on Christmas Eve, and he's going to be discussing this because there's NFL games on Christmas Day. And then on Boxing Day, there is going to be a special. I know me and Nigel are involved. I don't know the exact format of it yet. I think you're on a show the 27th.
I'm 27th.
You're on.
27th.
And then we are doing, me and RJ are on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, I do believe. So we've got, there's plenty of content coming up on Betting Weekly Live.
Excellent. Look forward to that. Plenty of tips, hopefully plenty of winners over the course of this weekend. Follow us at Because We Win. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give us your thoughts on this weekend's game. Get your comments in from all of us. For now, though, it is goodbye.